everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are going to focus on the amazing platform called Peardeck, and we are here with Heather, who is the Digital Integration Specialist at McKinley Elementary. So thank you guys all for being here. As we go through this presentation, please feel free to write any of your comments in the chat, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. And if we don't get things answered, then we'll gladly do it at the end. So without further ado, Heather, turn it over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm here today to go over Peardeck with you, which is one of my favorite engagement tools for students. I am actually a regional trainer for Peardeck, so hopefully I will be able to answer all of your questions that you may have today. So I'm just going to jump in. So what is Peardeck? Right now, I think Google Slides is kind of where it's at. So Peardeck is actually, it's an extension or an add-on. There are two different versions of it. So within Google Slides, if you have a new presentation or even an existing presentation, and you want to make sure that instead of students just watching it and listening, that you are engaging them a little bit more, you can get the add-on for Google Slides. That's in the presentation there of where you can find that within Slides. And then on the bottom, if you're using Chrome, which hopefully you are, you can get it as the Peardeck Power Up in your Chrome store. Okay, so that's where you would get those. And what are some things that Peardeck does? Okay, so you're definitely increasing student engagement. There are drawing slides for your students that are not yet verbal. You've got your text where they can type in, which is going to be great practice for when we do take iLearn again. Gets them practicing, typing in capital letters, punctuation, and you may want to share out some of those responses with the class. And you can also keep those anonymous as well, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we get to the teacher dashboard. Okay, you can also embed websites, which means that you can kind of app smash. I'll go into that a little bit later in the presentation, but one of my favorite things to link in there is the Padlet, and that's going to allow students to work together even if they're not doing things at the same time, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes in the presentation here. So it's a student brainstorming tool. It's a way that you can summarize learning. You can ask students to summarize what their takeaways are, and that will help you plan going forward. If you need any remediation, if you need to extend the lesson for certain students, it's going to help you with your grouping. Okay. A lot of times I've got teachers asking about whiteboards and how you can share notes with students. When you get the add-on in your slides, it's going to automatically generate a file in your Google Drive called Peardeck, and then within that folder there's a subfolder called takeaways, and each student's going to have their own takeaway also.
Lena Gordon, please come to the front office.
Sorry. Also published within their drive that they will have access to. So this could be a great tool. If a student's struggling, you can share that with families. If a student has a behavior issue, it's all in there. So students will have access to their work. They'll be able to see any notes that they've taken. So that could be really helpful. All right, I'm going to go on. So there's really two main free features. There are additional features if you buy the subscription, but just having the free access, you've got some great tools available to you. You've got the draggable slides, which on your teacher dashboard, you can look at it all at once and say, okay, I can see that all of my students have understanding, or you can, if you see like maybe you've got one or two dots that are in the wrong area, when you check for understanding, you can look on your teacher dashboard and see who the individual is who may need some remediation there. Okay. And you also have drawing slides, which again is great for your students that may not be able to write yet or express in words how they're responding. So the drawing slides, I really like those. Even the big kids have fun with those. So okay, I'm gonna go on to, okay, I put some ideas in here of different ways that you could use Peardeck, and I tried to keep the 4 C's in mind here. So students, if when you're assigning within Google Classroom, you have your 3 options of students can view, students can edit, or you can make a copy for each student. If you are going to use Peardeck in this way, then you would assign it that you could give each student a copy, yet still embed the shared doc on your Peardeck so that they can collaborate and work together. So the next few slides are just some ideas for how you would do that. And this slide presentation will be available on my Canvas course if you need to refer back to how you could do that. So I'm going to kind of go quickly through those, but just some ideas of, again, allowing for group work even while we're working in different places and different times. So another feature of Peardeck that I really love is it's got social emotional lessons, but it's also helping your students with thinking about their thinking. And I know that's something that Sai has brought up in her trainings, thinking about your thinking. So what was the hardest thing for you today? What was something that you already knew, some background knowledge that you brought? But to go back and question things and really think about what it is you may still need help with or what you're having successes with. Okay, and that can also be helpful, again, at home for parents to see that. And I think my next, after this one, so you could also, if you were using Responsive Classroom, you could maybe have a end of the day meeting. So students can all share, something that they're taking away, or just a way to go back and reflect on the day's lesson. And then in this next one, I love this. This is huge. Right now, we need all the help we can get to include parents in their conversation of their child's learning. So again, within that folder with the takeaways, you can share any behavior concerns, or you can also reach out and say, wow, so-and-so did such a great job today. I want to share with you their hard work in this lesson, or even share, you can keep it anonymous. So if you wanted to say like, okay, this is what a student is capable of, let's take it to the next level. If the student is capable of it, then you certainly could be able to try those things out too. So I love that part of it. Okay, I've talked a little bit about the teacher dashboard. If you do assign something with Peardeck, this is going to be the first thing that pops up after it asks you if you want to have students do it live together, or if you'd rather have it do student pace mode. Your teacher dashboard is really cool because if you are in the classroom with your students and you don't want to share maybe some struggles that students are having, or if you want to keep some things private, this is a way that you can do that. You can use your phone. If you have a tablet or an iPad, you can open up your dashboard on there. So once you get started, this will come up, and I'll show you a little bit here in just a minute when we get to try some of these tools out. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I want you to have a chance to practice some of these. So I am actually going to my Peardeck add-on here. And I am going to present the lesson to you as if you were a student. So if you want to open up another tab, or if you would like to join from your phone or another device, if you would go to joinpd.com, that's joinpd.com, no spaces or anything. And right now I'm going to do the Learn Together, the instructor paced activity. So this would be something that you would do with students during your Google Meets, if you were back in the classroom. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a couple moments to go to joinpd.com and kind of learn with us here. Thank you, whoever put that in the chat. Okay, and I'll be able to give you the code in just a second. Our internet's moving a little bit slow today. Okay, so remember, from your other device, you are going to be on joinpd.com. And this is what's going to pop up, your teacher dashboard. I am actually not going to share that with you because just like you would be with your students, you would want, to keep that privacy. So I'm just going to click off of that in a moment. But the code that you need to get into my presentation today is EKDSZ. I'm going to give everyone a moment to put that in. Thank you for putting that in the chat. I'm going to leave it up for just a moment. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that code. If you do need the code, it is in my upper right-hand corner of my screen there. Again, for students, if they needed you to reshare it, it will stay there during the entire presentation. Okay, so right now I am actually, I'm going to go ahead and keep it with my teacher screen, and we'll talk a little bit later about your other view that you have available to you. So this, again, is something that you're going to use with students in your Google Meet. Okay, so go on, and it should have popped up kind of when you first got to Peardeck, how are you feeling today? It always gives them the green smiley, the yellow, and the red. So I like that it's touching on the social emotional aspect of our learning. And oh, I clicked the wrong thing. Oh. Okay, and I can see that all of you are kind of moving yours there. I'm going to go to a different view so you don't have to see everyone's responses. Give you a moment to drag that dot to.
I'm going to jump in while that's loading real quick. Just for those of you, so Heather's going to be presenting the teacher side. And so you have the choice. If you want to see the teacher side, then you would watch the screen that you are on right now, the YouTube screen. If you would like to see what it looks like from a student's view, then just focus on that new tab that you went to at joinpd.com in a new tab that was open. And you can experience it from the student side. So that code that she gave you is how you would join as a student.
Yes. And your students will do the same thing. They will go to joinpd.com and enter the unique code. And the code helps when the takeaways are published to your drive. That code will only work for the one course. Okay, so I think everyone's had a chance to answer this one about how they're feeling. Okay, so another draggable slide here. You can create a content check, especially if you're doing a live lesson with students. You want to know if someone's struggling. It's so much easier in person, especially as an elementary teacher. You can check for all those nonverbal cues that a student may be confused or they're not understanding something. So Peardeck is a great tool to use when you can't see all those cues in person, right? So that's another draggable. I love this slide, especially since we don't have the thumbs up or thumbs down feature in our Google Meets yet. Another tool that you have available to you to ask any sort of question for the thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay. Give you a moment to move your icon where you feel it best fits. Okay, I just included a couple of different options that you may have available to you to use besides the dot draggable. We also have one that's available for maps. You could set any map as your background of the slide, and then these icons would be available for you to use, and everything's editable. So if you're using a different map and you wanted to change your legend, you can definitely do some things like that. Give you a moment to kind of interact with that one. And then I believe the next one I have is the timeline. So another tool that you have available to you, you could even have students kind of collaborate on this and move things together, or in student pace mode, you could definitely use it as a formative or summative assessment. Yeah. So, and again, all of these slides that are pre-created will help you with the template. You can input any information that you'd like there. Okay, I'm going to just toggle back really quick to the teacher dashboard, and this would show. So on your teacher dashboard, you have a couple options available to you. You can make it so that your responses from your students were hidden if you didn't want those displayed on the screen. And then you also have a tool down here that locks student screens. If I click that, then you will no longer be able to write on my slide. So I just wanted to kind of show those. Okay, and I'll show you when we get to the next part of my presentation how you can add in, that's the new prompt. Let's say that you discover that a lot of your students have their draggable in the wrong spot, they're not understanding. You can go in the middle of a lesson and add a new slide to help you out with that. So I'm going to go back to our presentation mode. You've had a moment to kind of play with that. And then I wanted to show some of the other pre-made slides that are available, especially since I come from McKinley, which is dual language. We do have some Spanish slides that are pre-created available for you. And we've got, we go on to the next one. There are a series of very primary slides that you could use with kinder or first grade. And then any of these, again, are editable. You can change it, change the letter, change the photos. So Peardeck actually has an artist that kind of creates all of these things. So it's not going to always have the same art that you're seeing in this presentation, but of course you can insert an image from the internet. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about a student pace mode and how you could assign this for your students to do at their own pace. So I'm actually going to, I guess I'm going to end our presentation. So I'm going to go to my bottom right-hand corner here and hit end. It's going to save it. I'm not going to look back at your work, but if you do publish the student takeaways, that's what's going to create the folder within their drive. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end our Peardeck session together, but continue on the live stream. So I'm just going to close out of that. I'm going to go back to, okay, here we are. Okay, so some tools that you can use in student pace mode. Okay, I had this in mind for secondary, but some of you may also have multiple sections that you teach, especially like if you're dual language immersion. You may have more than one class that you're attending to. So you can always refer back to this slide as far as directions on how to do that and how to separate those in the takeaways so that you can keep your classes organized. So, okay, Peardeck has released some new features recently. One is inserting audio. So that's great, a great way for them to connect with you and hear you, even if you are not there in person with them. This would be great for anyone that's a language learner, or maybe someone that your real young students that are going to struggle with reading independently, or even students who have visual impairments. So some different ideas there. Okay. And Okay, so I said that we would talk a little bit more about kind of app smashing and embedding. I'm not going to go too much into this because I don't want to overwhelm anyone, but it does work. Peardeck does work with Flipgrid. It works with Padlet, like I had mentioned earlier, Volcaroo. So within your Peardeck presentation, you can link them to these outside sites that are going to enhance your learning even further. Okay, now another new feature that I really love that they've just come out with, I don't know how many of you know about bloxy. It's kind of along the lines of Lightspeed Relay. For this, you're going to be able to chat back and forth with students, or even if they're working in student pace mode, they can ask questions like, hey, this doesn't make sense, I'm not understanding. And then you would get those messages and you can go back to them and respond, clarify things a little bit more. So that's going to be a really useful tool, especially with our distance learning. Okay. All right. You can also, I love this, especially for my Montessori teachers. You like work that's self-correcting. You can embed an answer key so that students can go in and check the answers themselves. Maybe you're not necessarily going to grade an assignment, but you want to make sure that what they're taking away are the correct answers. So also great if you're working with a small group and you want to have students working on their own independently, put the answer key in there and they can self-check. Okay, we also have the Immersive Reader for Peardeck. So it's more than just the reading the text on the slide. I know a lot of times we have an extension that we will put on there, the talk to text, and it will read anything that's on there. But besides using it as that, there are so many other ideas I could come up with for your younger students that can't read independently. They can follow along. You could use it as a grammar activity to practice like a noun or verb hunt for your language learners. And for any students that may have impairments, it could be a very useful tool. Okay, so, all right, this map. I mentioned earlier that you can set the background in your slides. Now, something really cool about Peardeck is that if you have any existing slides or PowerPoints that you've previously used with students, you can get the Peardeck add-on and use it with any of those and insert some slides to check for understanding. So the map, I wanted to show you. Some other tools that we can embed with would be Wakelet, or you saw the map earlier, you could use My Map or Street View so that you could do kind of a virtual field trip with that. All right, so, and I mentioned this earlier when we were practicing as students. If you need to add something, you realize that your class is not understanding, you can go in and add a prompt that was at the bottom right of your screen to help students that are struggling, or maybe you realize, oh, I forgot to put this part in. You can go ahead and add that, even if you've already assigned it to your Google Classroom. So that's a nice feature. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about this one, but it's a little cheat sheet for you. Some of the different tools, I've got some screenshots on there so you can see some of the different features that are available to you. And I have a link I'll share in a moment. So what you need to know, this is kind of overwhelming. Where can you get started? Your friendly DIS will definitely point you in the direction of the Common Sense Media or Peardeck Digital Citizenship lessons. Those are wonderful for the beginning of the year. Not only are you giving your students practice with using slides and Peardeck, you're also giving them practice with, the digital learning community and how we treat others and things that are safe or not safe to do online. So there's a link there to the Be Internet Awesome slides. And that is everything I have for you today. So if you have any questions, if you are still playing around, feel free to give us a shout out. Hopefully I can answer those for you. And I hope that you gained some new knowledge that you can use and put to use with your students.
Thanks. Oh my gosh, I was just on mute. Sorry, guys. I was just saying that I really liked Peardeck for use with students, just to keep them all even on the same slide or within the same part of the presentation. You know, if you are a little bit nervous about the interactive side, you know, just kind of starting that way to keep them all on the same slide in the same spot in that presentation.
Okay, and I saw that someone was asking about the teacher dashboard. Yes, okay, so I'm going to use the presentation that we just had and then show that. So let's see, I'm going to go into the student pace mode and see if I can show you the teacher dashboard there. Bear with me while everything loads up today. Hey, thanks to everyone for being here. I hope you learned something. Okay. All right, let's see. Okay, so yes, this is going to show my teacher dashboard. This time when I presented the lesson, instead of choosing, you know, that I was going to do it live, I did the student pace mode. So again, that's the little image I showed you earlier. It's going to explain what the teacher dashboard is and how you access it from a separate device. And so it's going to let me know that, yes, my student is in student pace mode. Okay, you can copy the link. So this would be great if you're using a HyperDoc. You can just plug that in there. Students it'll take them right to it. Or you can share it to your Google Classroom. Peardeck syncs pretty seamlessly with that. So without further ado, this is your teacher dashboard. Now, I haven't assigned this to any classrooms, but it's going to give it a unique code. It's going to tell me how many students I've assigned it to and if they have completed it or not. Of course, you can name the session to help you stay organized for grading purposes and stuff. So let's see. You guys saw me do this a little bit when I was toggling between the regular slides presentation and then presenting with Peardeck. So over here, these three little dots give you some more options to leave, to end. You can switch it from student pace mode. Like, let's say miraculously 100% of your students show up for your live Google Meet, so you can switch it back to a regular teacher-led. And then you can also change like the projector or the screen view. Something that I just thought of that may help you troubleshoot. A lot of times when I'm doing the lessons with students, you notice that when I changed my slide, yours changed. If theirs are not changing, if you have them tap the space bar, it will catch them up to the slide that you're on. Okay.
I didn't know that. That's a really good tip.
Yeah. Especially if they're clicking at the same time you're switching, sometimes that'll happen. So this is basically the teacher dashboard and what you're going to see. Now, if you've got a draggable slide, it may show like all of the answers. And as I said before, you can kind of filter those out. Like if you see everyone's in the green, you're fine. But if you notice that you've got a couple people over here in the yellow or the red, if you click on the dot, you'll be able to see who that is having a little struggle. And then Tara, did you want me to kind of show what options? I think I let them test out each type, but I guess what I can do is I'm going to end this.
Yeah, maybe since you're going to end that, I wonder if we could see like just kind of, do you have any sample reports, or will this give us a report that maybe we can kind of?
Oh, actually, yes, I can show my drive and show that. So probably the only ones that I have in my drive are from the last year when we did the digital citizenship, but I'm gonna go there, back to my drive, and I can show you. So it automatically created the Peardeck folder down here, and I'm just gonna go into that. And then the subfolder I was talking about with the takeaways, you'll be able to see that. I don't always publish students' work because I'm not giving them a grade, but there's a whole nother aspect to Peardeck that I didn't even share with you today. So that's what the vocabulary folder is from. I love Flashcard Factory. If you're interested in learning more about that, I think we're going to share a link. Someone presented that for back to school use, so we'll link that in my Canvas course if possible. But here are the takeaways. So you'll be able to see, it keeps a copy of my teacher dashboard. And I actually, I did make one for Indiana State history. So I can show you, I did this with one of our 5th grade classes, and it'll show you like the student work. So I could, click, I don't know if it's going to tell the student name, so I don't want to share too much information. It is, but so I'm going to click out of it. I don't want to.
That's okay. So basically, just kind of, we can show them the thumbnail, but what Peardeck does, which is really great, is like not only do you get this interactive side, but these reports are really incredible, and it makes that folder in your drive so you can go back and track all that data and keep all those resources right there in your drive.
Yes.
Someone had asked if the draggable slides, if you would recommend that during asynchronous learning, or would you recommend that more for just the synchronous learning?
I like to use it with students because it's, again, a quick way to check, but it could also be a valuable tool for at-home learning too. I mean, I think a lot of times students are reluctant to share with us that they need more support or to raise their hand. So I love that this is a way that they can do that while keeping, the anonymity. So.
And I also think it's a way to check in with them as well. If they're doing asynchronous work, it just keeps it all within that same one presentation versus having them have to go out of the presentation and maybe fill out a form or respond to a question in Google Classroom. And that way, as you review all the student work, right, that can help inform you as far as, reflective practice and how you're going to adapt your instruction.
And here I'm going to see if I can open this presentation and show a little bit of the behind the scenes of adding the slides and some of the options that are available to you. As I said, that they're all editable. You'll notice that on the bottom of all the Peardeck slides, it's got that do not remove this bar, students can draw. That's how students can tell which slides would be editable. Like, so for example, you may have some slides where they're not doing anything but reading. Okay, so let's see.
Yeah, I think that's important too, is that you don't have to have it be, a Peardeck doesn't have to be a layer on top of all of your slides. You can insert just selected Peardeck slides. Okay. And if, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I completely agree. So especially because I said you may be using something that's pre-created and you don't have a student action for every single thing that you are teaching. You're just going to insert slides here and there to check for understanding.
Yes. And so I think that's how I got started, because it's a little bit intimidating. And, asking someone that maybe like one of your team teachers or maybe a friend of yours, to create one together, and one of you be the student and one of you be the teacher, and then swap roles would be a really good way to get started. But just start with kind of inserting one of those check for understandings or one of those basic slides would be a really good way to start. And it's also engaging for your students. It doesn't have to be this massive, every slide they have to engage with kind of presentation.
Right. So here are all, once you've opened Peardeck in your slides presentation, to do it with students, you're just going to click on the top there, the start lesson. So that was in one of the slides that I said you could refer back to as far as the ins and outs of how it works. But there are tons of templates in the template library, things that are pre-created. And then for you, I think the free version, it's just text choice. But if you do get the premium, you can also send students to another website and check for understanding. There's the draggable and the drawing slides. So let's check out the template library. I like how they have these grouped. So they have it at the beginning of a lesson, they have it during the lesson and end the lesson. So there are different activities, you know, like what background knowledge do you bring before I even start? So that'll help me understand where students are coming from. We've got during the lesson, hey, to check for understanding. These are all the pre-created, and these are all editable. So you can, you know, you can change it. I love that they have the stretch break in there. So you can even, you know, get your Go Noodles into your presentation. So you've got your check for understanding at the end. Okay. And I want to see if I can find the social emotional learning. I absolutely love these because it's so hard for us to set up that classroom community without physically being there in person. I love that they have, you know, these opportunities for students. You know, I wish my teacher knew. It's a great check-in for students. So some different opportunities to engage with them. I love this one. Give a thank you to someone in your class. How awesome is that? Okay, so that's the social emotional. You also saw there's critical thinking. So I love the visuals that go with it. Just so many different ways that our brain processes information. And so Peardeck tries to really think about all those different learning styles and create things that'll go with each one. And they just added these littles ones last year. I come from very primary background, kindergarten, first grade. So I love that there are some things that I can do, you know, with my students that are appropriate for their development. Lots of different choices. And you can also, if you go to the Peardeck website, there are some, I know that they have a weekly deck that they share that's free. A lot of times it'll go with like, they've got different ones for like Computer Science Week. They've got different, right now I think it's a back to school community building thing. So they offer some pre-created free ones, but a lot of times what I will do to save time is download, let's say I wanted to give a lesson on, you know, the different types of sentences. I can go to Teachers Pay Teachers, download a slides presentation, and then get my Peardeck add-on and insert those into the presentation to kind of check for understanding and also increase their engagement level. So do we have any requests of?
No, everyone's just saying thank you and that they found this to be really helpful. Again, we will be posting this in the Canvas course, so you will have access to this presentation that Heather has made, and there's so many good things on here. Again, you know, just spend some time with it. It's a really powerful tool, and Heather's presentation has done a really great job of kind of explaining each part to you. I'm sure she would enjoy an email if you need some help, and there are, like, of course, your digital integration specialist can help you too. But don't be, you know, intimidated. It's an amazing program.
It is. So, all right. Did we answer all the questions?
I think so. All right. Well, we'll let you guys have a little bit of an eye break and a brain break before the next session. So thank you again, Heather, for presenting this really awesome tool. We really appreciate your time, and we will see you all soon.
Bye, guys. Thank you.